with... Oh, hi, everyone.
Hello. Yes. James, where are you joining us from?
Sorry, Calgary, Alberta. Yes.
Okay, yeah. I'm in Toronto, so nice. Other people feel free to mention in the chat where you are joining us from.
And apologies for the bit of this confusion with the webinar links. Hoping we'll still be able to record this and send it along, but also sending it out for anyone who might have been late to join as well.
Great, thank you.
Amazing,
okay.
Yes.
We have Fife from Toronto, Samantha in Montreal, Aderimike, Toronto, Toronto as well, Sandy, Calgary, Wangi is from Toronto, Manat, Mississauga. We have a good representation, so that's amazing. Thanks everybody for joining. We will get started in about 2 minutes. Just want to give a bit more time for those who are migrating from the other platform, but don't worry, we'll also finish on time.
Awesome. I also hope everyone's having a good day.
I am. It's Tuesday. I don't know. I feel like I want it to be Friday already. Can't wait for the long weekends next week, but we're almost there.
Mm-hmm. I think, oh yes, it is a long weekend. Yeah, those are always really good.
Yeah. Well, at least I believe it's national, so everyone in Canada should have that day off. I hope so. That's good. Awesome. So 1 more minute, and then we will get started.
Awesome.
I am very excited. I don't know about you guys. Hope everybody is excited.
Yes, indeed. Let's see if this works.
Okay, so we're just going to do a few housekeeping before we start. As mentioned, please feel free to turn on your cameras. It would be nice to have cameras on. And we have multiple components to today's session, and we'll walk through the agenda for that. Also, make sure to mute yourselves so that way we can hear the speakers clearly. And if you have any questions, feel free to either put it in the chat or raise up your hand. You will have the opportunity to unmute yourself, ask your questions, or have your questions read out loud through the chat.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so welcome everybody to It's Never Too Early. Before we get started, I'm just going to introduce the different team members on the WomEconomics side and also on the Woveo side, and then we'll get right into the session. So firstly, on the WomEconomics side, myself, Adewumi, I'm one of the co-founders. We have Tanya as well, Dorcas, who's a program director. Favor and Joshua are both interns. Favor is a marketing intern, and Joshua is a business development intern. We have Ange Marie, who is the operations director. Navia, who is marketing manager. And most recently, we had Rishida join us as a data analyst intern. As a nonprofit, we also have a board, and currently we have Diana and Obigeri, who are both senior economists, and they have been an incredible support for our organization, WomEconomics. A little bit about why we do what we do. Basically, we noticed a huge gap. First off, there was a lot of lack of networking opportunities based on a survey that we did late last year and in 2023 as well. A lot of our people that we surveyed mentioned that they lacked mentorship, representation, and they had lots of stress when it came to figuring out what they should do post-university, or also when it comes to growing in their industries. On top of that, many of them felt that they weren't really sure what type of skills they should be building and what is the right career path for them. So all of this led to the birth of WomEconomics. And what do we basically stand for? We stand to empower aspiring economists and non-economists by providing resources for career success and fostering connections. And we want to do this at a global scale, starting here in Canada. We have four major pillars. First is We Events, We Connect, We Grow, and We Podcast. And so today's session will fall under the We Grow category, and we're doing this in collaboration with Woveo. A few impacts that we've had so far. We were able to scale up since last year. We have over 400 followers on Instagram, and we have been also seeing a good representation of male and female. When it comes to our podcast, we have had over 2,000 active listeners. We have also hosted in-person events, and when we combine our virtual and in-person attendees, we have over 160 attendees. So far, we've done 6 brand collaborations, and today's event makes it technically 8 with Woveo in May. So we're really thankful for the way how we've been growing as a brand. And these are just a few highlights for our impact so far. I won't read it. And this slide will be available at the end. You can definitely follow us on Instagram, on LinkedIn to hear more about our organization. With that being said, we are now brought to today's session. We have Sandy Gilbert, Shay Myers, Mary Heath Cabrera, Aderumi Ejike, and Aderumike Lala. Today's event was one that hits home for many of us, and this basically stems from the importance of knowing your financial future. In this session, you're going to gain insights from different women in different parts of the financial world, some entrepreneurs, some full-time employees, and some doing both, and being able to get more as to how they're able to get successful in their different spaces. In this session as well, we hope that you're able to walk away with clear, actionable steps and also know the tools you need to launch a successful business if that's what you want to do, or also grow and scale in your career in finance. And after that, many of the speakers are more than happy to stay connected, so feel free to reach out to them post the event as well. And so for our agenda today, we have a bunch of things to get covered. Firstly, is going to be our welcome introduction, and we're going to have a short presentation by James, who's going to walk us through why financial literacy matters. At every stage, we'll dive right into our panel discussion and end things off with a Q&A session. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to James from Woveo, who will do an introduction of Woveo and will kick us off with our keynotes. And please feel free to mention things in the chat as well as we get started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Also, it's a sincere pleasure to be here as well. So I hope you're all having a beautiful Tuesday, wherever you are, feeling good, feeling blessed. Yeah, as mentioned, my name is James Mohato. It is a sincere pleasure to actually be delivering this keynote for the event. In putting this together, I really wanted to be very genuine, be very reflective, but also give, I feel, my honest reflection of some things that have happened. I think speaking to a general audience of mostly women, my perspectives might be different, but I'm hoping the lessons, even some of the hard lessons, are something we can all reflect on. But equally, learn from my pain in some senses. So it will just focus on being a quick introduction, really some of the lessons from my past and our past that we can share with history, living in the present, so bringing us back to right now, and banking on community and what that might look like. To really start us off, I hope everyone can see my screen okay and there aren't any issues there. And if I can get a thumbs up from anyone, amazing. Thank you so much, Adwemi. Okay, so really, and to start us off, when I was thinking of like how I should introduce myself and really reflecting on the lessons here, I really wanted to make sure I touch on, my reflections and my lessons rather than telling people what to do or giving out advice. But essentially, I'm James Mohato. I'm one of the co-founders from Woveo. And when I reflect on my journey and really some of the things that really impacted me, I think of all the firsts or all the timings or how things happened in time. And so when reflecting on the topic of it's never too early, I started looking at my own journey and what that might have been like. So I was born and raised in Kenya. And at around 18 years old, something really monumental happened. I got the chance to study in Canada. And really, this was an eye-opening experience because one, traveling abroad and then being able to experience a whole new life, but also you're leaving a life behind. And so the picture that you see there is my mom and my aunt. And some context for this is within the Kenyan system, or even for any international student, there is a requirement of you for 1 year of being able to provide tuition evidence for 1 year to your admissions department. My family at the time wasn't in that position. However, something that was really amazing was my aunt and my mom is that we did something called a harambe, where you almost, it's a fundraiser, you put money together. And the people who showed up at the time for me was really like my mom's friends, my aunt's friends, her church friends. It was really, I'd say, impactful in the sense of seeing individuals who I only see on Sundays actually come out, support, and have a vested interest in my success. And I remember being told, hey, like you're going there to not only represent yourself and your family, but also us. So go behave. And man, that was, yeah, it was really shocking, but really jarring. And even when you reflect on that, undergraduate studies were in Canada, so experienced something different. My first paying job was also in Canada shortly after graduation and even during. And finally was being able to actually start or attempt to start my first business in 2011, right after graduation. It didn't succeed in any way. It was actually a bit of a failure, but the lessons from that really allowed us to go on and form Woveo. And so when I was reflecting on this and beyond, I really wanted to touch on how times have changed and what this has meant for us as a society. Because when looking at Woveo and even the journey we have for entrepreneurship, I don't know if it's something that would have worked the same way maybe 10, 15 years ago. And so coming to this presentation, I really wanted to emphasize or speak on what does it mean to be, it's never too early or it's never too late, or what does timing have to do with really being able to make impactful changes in your life. So on the top list, on the top bar, or yeah, the top progress bar, you see that things started a lot earlier when, if we were to go back maybe 10, 15 years ago, you would graduate school by 22, by 24, you'd have a job, by 26, you had the chance of being married, settling down, and by 30, you owned your first home. By the time you turn 40, this would be your wealth years. So you're now experiencing high net worth ownership, but at the same time, excessive disposable income for you to live off a good life. And if you were lucky, then at the end, you would be going into entrepreneurship around 45. So you'd be skyrocketing, really to enjoy things differently, maybe a bit of change in pace. Some people would retire. Okay, bring it to the present. Now, by 23, a lot of us have our first jobs or are working. It could be part-time, it could be full-time to varying degrees, but the nature of the notion of work is not something foreign in your early 20s. Majority of people are graduating in their 30s, whether it's because of pursuing a master's degree, further education, or even a second degree or alternative education. We are spending longer in school. Now, I'm going to come back to that little recycle or that little circular image after, but then moving on to that, we see that one, we're getting married later in life, so in our mid-30s. Also, buying a house and let's say starting a business does start a bit differently. So the rocket ship, which is starting a business, is really, I'd say, in that 38-year range, where I think you have some good professional experience, you have a good knowledge behind you, and you have some, I guess, a stable foundation. But interestingly, purchasing of that first home has been put forward to where you would have traditionally maybe even attempting retirement in a different lifetime. So your wealth settlement happens a lot sooner or a lot later in life. So usually around your 50s is when you're seeing that real amassing of wealth. Now, what was really cool when I looked at this was this circular item here. And I'd really like this to be a focus of my presentation or my theme of It's Never Too Early. And that is because this represents a career change or a shift in career. And sometimes that could also lead to entrepreneurship. But what you're seeing and what I find really impactful is how over time, this has been introduced into our life cycle. In essence, the ability for you to change careers. We no longer have lifers in organizations. People are able to every 2 years switch careers. Some do it strategically, some do it to really be passionate in the work they do. But essentially, in our lives, you have been given the optionality of being able to reinvent yourself, not only professionally, but also really, I'd say, career-wise. You can almost shift careers entirely, not only by deciding what to go to school for or by what knowledge you focus on, but you can change your occupation entirely. And for me, I find this very powerful because when it comes to things that I really reflect on, and when it comes to the beauty of progress, I'm really inspired by Wangari Maathai. And I really dug deep into women and I'd say women who've been impactful in how I view life. And one of them is Wangari Maathai because she was the first female Nobel laureate. She's also Kenyan or from Kenya. And something really impactful that she did I'd say that was really good timing, meeting really good mission, is she underwent a tree planting exercise for money or for pay in Kenya. And this was around the same time of M-Pesa, which is mobile money, which meant that for you going out to do a day's work, you would be paid digitally through your phone. And this would be at the end of the day. Now, when comparing this technological evolution to something else that's also happened, I compared it to China. And so if you look at Africa and China in the last 40 years, there's been a real shift in economic activity from, let's say, traditional farming and informal sectors, low formality, low knowledge base, to really technical sectors, really knowledge-driven, education-focused, but also very formal in not only the approach, but also the technical skills needed for that. What this has meant is that within a lifetime, you could actually see the growth in income. So you're seeing that there's a 10 to 20% or 10 to 20 times growth in terms of income that individuals are able to earn in terms of earning power. Secondly, the economic transition was a complete 180, which meant we went from having these highly informal jobs to having these really technical focused specialty jobs. And I think there's a time, if you remember the division of labor principles of economics, where everyone was siloed to become an expert. And now we're shifting away from that, where everyone needs to be a manager because of AI, robotics, and also the technology, or not robotics, AI, machine learning, and really the technology available to us. The final thing is the migration. We have been attracted to more urban areas. And this, I think, speaks in all regards to that migration from rural home settings to urban, whether it's metropolitan where you are. Even in Canada, we are seeing people moving away from the smaller cities. We moved from PEI and we came to Calgary just because that's where economic activity tends to happen. And I say all this really because I would love to speak to what does it mean to evolve, or what does an evolving system look like or mean within the scope of economic progress. And the concept of rotational savings or community banking is not something new. Communities for the longest time have been there to stand up for each other and support one another in essentially providing the most tangible impact to the individuals that they support. When we look at it within the scope of ROSCAs or community banking of ROSCAs and rotational savings, it's a system practiced by about 1.7 billion people globally. So within every community, every society, there's a different version of community banking and support where individuals such as yourselves, a room full of people with common interests and common alignment, come together to support one another. And the beauty of this is the ability and the economic impact that this could potentially bring. And today it has about $250 billion in economic activity. And when we look at all the progress that's been made, all the economic development I can speak to, and all the wonders that technology has brought us, there still remains to be what I would call a gap when it comes to economic development, specifically for entrepreneurship and business development for women. This is one of the first slides I shared when we actually started engaging with WomEconomics, and it's really because of how starking it was. First and foremost, the fact that below 20% of businesses owned within Canada are owned by women or registered by women. And as Woveo, this is really something we want to directly impact, very directly through our loan programs, but also through our education and financial literacy that we're providing. Now, if we were to do this, what would it mean? And with Woveo, a really big philosophy we have is the fact that rising tide or a rising tide will raise all boats. Almost by nature, if we are all economically successful, then we are able to improve economic or outlooks for everyone within our community and our society. And for us, what this could potentially mean is unlocking about 180 billion in economic value. And that means $180 billion goes directly back into economic development. It can drive and grow businesses. It can mean higher wages and higher income. It can actually mean hopefully stronger and more sustainable economic and social supports. What does it mean when you activate a community around economic outcomes and economic goals? Really, that's the challenge that I would bring forward. And for us, a really strong metric, or really why we believe in these systems, is because essentially we have learned or we have seen the power of community banking right from, I'd say, from the horse's mouth, really from dealing with communities directly. So far, we have been very fortunate to support about 35 businesses with about 100,000 of our capital being distributed. The beauty and the strength of this is the repayment rate. And when I say that the repayment rate is at 98%, it's because we can actually tie in the economic outcome or output of some of this. Really about, or really around, how are we able to ensure that these activities support the community, but also the women and the society's values. All right. I will rush through a bit of this also as well, but through Woveo, some of the things we are able to provide and some of the benefits that we really want to push for communities is the way we're able to support. So we have our Woveo groups where you're able to pull credits, but also our community groups or our community and business loans where you're able to borrow directly from the platform to support yourself. Why this actually is some of the work that we're really passionate about is because when we started as Woveo, we actually started pulling our own resources together. But our first check, the most impactful check that we received, was from the lady that you see in the picture there, and it was for $25,000 from CBDC. This allowed us to build our product. This allowed us to really test our processes, and really, one, it allowed us and gave us the confidence to prove that what we were doing was worthy of you, the public, and an audience. So I'll go through this one really, just if I can jump through a few of them. A real core process or a real core vision behind our work is that of an accountability partner, where we really focus on being able to support community by community. In essence, there's no one in a better position than your community to support you in being able to meet your economic goals. And how do we put them at the forefront of this work? With Woveo, we focus on kind of, I'd say, three trenches. So from a community setting, we really see that if you need $5,000 and below, how can community show up for you? If you need a bit more, which is the $25,000 gap, how can Woveo as an organization focus on community banking, provide this as a solution? And lastly, how can we refer you to some of our economic allies and partners for anything above that? And with our Woveo credit groups, it is really driven by community. In essence, as a community, you're able to come together and save towards shared mission. Now, driving impact is a really key aspect of this. In essence, because it is a community-driven initiative, we know for a fact that the outcomes will be community-driven. And that community focus, affordability, and favorability are the benefits we aim to pass on to you as members of WomEconomics, but also as members of your community as well. Now, I wanted to close on this because it was really impactful to me as to what does it mean to be part of a community and what does it mean to start? So not only starting early, but just start. So this is the message that I originally sent to one of my good friends who was working on Woveo at the time. Why this is what I would hopefully like to leave the presentation on is because this message in itself is what laid the foundation for me to work as part of Woveo. It was an Instagram message that I sent in a moment of desperation, but also of wanting to provide and serve more to my community, but also to myself and my values and my missions. And the biggest thing and why I would push most of you to do this is because when you look at our map and our progress of where society is going, there is the need for you to really, I'd say, seek alternative income or hustle or find work. And the push that I would make is for you to do this with passion and love leading the process. In essence, when you can be of service, the work itself will reflect and then the value will come back in kind. And so a closed mouth does not get fed. Most of us are forced to work alternative jobs or might be working second jobs. My nudge or my call to action would be for you to actually do this with the community in mind and really seek out support from your fellow community members in terms of building this work and doing the things that you really love to do. All right. I will make sure that this is provided for the review after, but there are some next steps I was hoping to review. But in essence, I would love to pass it on for the panel presentation because I know that's where the meat of this discussion would be. But coming back to it, really to say, please, one, yes, a closed mouth does not get fed. Something as simple as an Instagram message could change the trajectory of everything that follows. And with Woveo, what we hope to be is the infrastructure or the ecosystem that allows you to turn these intentions into action. So throughout this presentation and also at the end, please feel free to reach out to the WomEconomics team or the Woveo team. We'd be more than happy to support you in your endeavors. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. I think that was an incredible presentation. And as he mentioned, Woveo is here to support all endeavors. So feel free to reach out after the session. The email address is over there. And also we're going to share the recording and all the slides that were presented as well. So thank you once again, James. With that being said, we're now going to move over to our panel discussion, what we have all been waiting for. And I am really excited to introduce each of the speakers. As I introduce them, let's make sure we pin them to the stage so they get seen as well. So first off, I'm going to call upon Shay Myers. So Shay Myers went from $200 and a 476 credit score to saving over $40,000 in 9 months. She's currently a licensed financial service professional, and she creates systematic change. She's the founder of Finance for the Culture to bridge the gap in financial literacy. Let's all welcome Shay Myers. Next up, I'm going to call upon Mariheth Cabrera. Mariheth is the co-founder and chief product and operating officer at Woveo, a Canadian fintech platform, changing how communities save and access credits. With 7+ years of experience in creative and digital roles and a background in filming and multimedia, she designs financial tools that are intuitive and humane. Can we all welcome Mariheth to the stage? Good to see you. Next off, we have Ade Rimike. Rimi is a senior data analyst in the gaming industry and a personal finance content creator. She has 5 years of experience in analytics and a passion for simplifying money topics. Her content began after noticing a gap in financial literacy among young adults. Originally from Nigeria, she moved to Canada in 2019 for her master's in analytics. And now she shares how she paid off her student loans and her journey to inspire others. Let's welcome Remy. And finally, we have Sandy Gilbert. Sandy Gilbert is the managing partner and CEO of Intergen, a private venture fund and venture builder. She is also the founder of DealPoint, a platform that facilitates capital raises in private markets. She is dedicated to supporting entrepreneurs as they grow from startup to scale up. She also sits as on the board of the National Angel Capital Association and is a past board member of the Angel Capital Association in the USA. Let's all give a big welcome to Sandy Gilbert. Awesome. I would want to confirm, can everybody see all the speakers? Are they all pinned on your end? Just before we get started. Okay, I think they're all slowly getting pinned. So just to start off, can I just get a sense from the panelists, how we're all feeling today? Mariheth, Remy, Sandy, and Shai.
Good. Excited to be here.
Yeah, as well. I really like this idea of it feels like friends just talking. And I really love that. I don't want to create this wall between everybody. This is a conversation for everybody.
Yeah, same. I'm excited about the conversation. And we started on a really good note too. Nice.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
Thanks, James,
that
for
as
that
well.
start, right? It was good.
Okay.
Okay, so the first question I'm going to ask everyone, actually, and maybe Sandy, you can kick us off on answering that. What does building wealth mean to you? And how has that definition changed over time?
So thanks for that question. It's interesting because I come at that little chart that James showed that said, you start here and then you move here and then you do this and you go here. If you listen to my journey for the last 40 years, it really has been focused on entrepreneurship only, and that's because I came from an entrepreneur family. So it never crossed my mind that I would actually go to work somewhere, that I would get a paycheck and that I would get a pension, that just was not how I grew up. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. So I always knew that I wanted to do it on my own. So building wealth, it has to do with a couple of things in my viewpoint. Number one is wealth is obviously money, but wealth is always to be really happy with what you do and to build a community around you that you are excited to share things with. I think for me, if I would have had a career where I was earning a big paycheck but didn't like what I did, I can't imagine doing that. And every day I go to work, I work with entrepreneurs that are building great innovation. I've built my own companies where I've been figuring out how to meet payroll on a Friday, but that's just works for me because that really is who I am and how I want to live my life. So I've built wealth in a number of ways. One is I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I love to travel. I've been able to do a lot of that travel as an entrepreneur. I could go somewhere and work in that city for a while. And I look back and thought, if I would have had a regular job where I was, 9 to 5ing it every day, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And so my wealth has been created by the experiences that I've had in life. And I obviously have, I live in a nice home. I've done the right things there, but it was really about my life experience, not necessarily how much money was in my bank account.
That is a very good perspective to share. Anyone has anything different to say or anything similar to top up on?
Yes, so I can add slightly different but close, just because I'm a 95 person. From the money standpoint, I feel like building wealth has definitely changed for me. The definition has changed because obviously we know wealth to mean large sums of money, but I also believe that wealth is very subjective and relative. What I think as wealth is different from what somebody thinks as wealth. My maybe wealth number that would satisfy the lifestyle I want, maybe travel, do all of those things, can be different from another person. So I think trying to build, when it comes to even the monetary terms, getting the money, investing, whatever it is, or getting to that number that makes sense for you and is enough for you versus what the world has said to be what is wealth.
Right.
I think that there also needs to be balance, even because I'm from 9 to 5, obviously, and I'm still building something on the side. So I have that balance of having something on the side. I think that even with the 9 to 5, as long as you're doing something that you enjoy and that it's feeding that passion and that you're earning well, as long as they're put into the right places to help you build wealth in the long run. So that's how our different wealth, basically.
Yeah, I would like to add something as well. I think, and I really agree what you both said, but I want to mention also that the wealth, it's community based. If I'm thriving, but everyone around me is struggling, that's not true wealth. I really want a sustainable environment, and that's key, because when we understand we all have different backgrounds and different ways to reach that wellness, if it's shared, it's better. So definitely, we have many meanings, and we need to put it in our own words. Definitely, Instagram is showing us other story. We need to keep that aside and ask ourselves what I like, how I want to spend, and even that could mean for you a job 9 to 5. That could be true for you, and that's awesome. But you need to decide, and that's the difference.
Us making the decision almost sounds like it's a mindset change that we need to have And this will lead me to the first question. I'm going to ask you, Shay, the first question. And I know that you kind of shared earlier on in your bio, and you talk about it a lot when you have other meetings and conferences, on how you were able to drastically improve your credit score and also save a lot of money in less than a year. What mindset shift did you have, and what strategy did you have to take that made the biggest difference in your life?
Yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. So I would say admitting to myself that I thought of myself as financially unattractive was a part of that mindset shift. And it wasn't any sort of pressure from anybody else. It was, I wasn't able to buy things that I wanted. I wasn't able to travel. I wasn't able to sustain my day-to-day bills. And that was a part of the shift that I needed to make in order to change. But another thing was also the realization that nobody was coming to save me. You know, if I wanted to improve my situation, I would have to figure out where to get that information, what habits to implement, what strategies to follow in order to do it. And that realization prompted me to go find that information. And in terms of strategy, the biggest strategy was actually getting somebody to help me, which was a financial advisor who's my financial advisor today, who got to know me, helped me figure out a plan, helped me manage my money, put these steps in place, set goals with me in order to tick these things off, like an emergency fund and the proper insurance and investing strategies and all of those things. So on the mindset side, it was no one's coming to save you. You have to change if you want to change. And then on the strategy side, it was working with someone to actually come up with a practical plan to implement those things.
I really love that. And especially when you said that no one is coming to save you. I think many times, not even just within the financial space, we always play the victim. In some cases, we are the victims, but we should not have that victim mentality continuously. We need to sometimes just pick up the pace and change something for ourselves and really make our own future, deciding our own future. And that will lead me to the next question for you, Remy. I know that your story is not the same, but kind of different, where you had student loans and you needed to figure that out for yourself. So could you kind of unpack that for us a little bit? How did you build that confidence to start saving, to start investing in spite of having a massive loans? How long did it take you to pay it off? And what would you say is the importance of storytelling when it comes to building financial confidence?
For sure. Yes. So my story, I had student loans and it was high interest because I was an international student. So I'm talking double digits right off the bat. And so immediately I was coming to Canada. Thankfully, my parents did a good job of like teaching me financial literacy. So I kind of already had a spreadsheet, like even before I left the shores of Nigeria, of how I planned to pay it off. I did the worst. I also studied economics. So I did the best case scenario, the worst case scenario, the most reasonable scenario of how I would pay it off. And then when I got to Canada and started school, I started thinking of how to earn money because I knew that my parents could support me, but like that loan was mine to pay. And so for me, it was just like immediately I was done with school, I had to be very heads down and be very vocal with my goals. So I was very vocal with my goals. I told all my friends, guys, I have high interest student loans I need to pay off, and I want to pay off in less than a year. So whatever it is, the outings, the going out, leave me out of that. You can let me know, but like just know I'm not coming for that because I have a big goal. And so I was able to really save a lot like that first year. And I was saving that on a 65K salary. So I graduated and my first job out of school was about 65K, 66K or so. And so I saved up 21K in less than a year and I paid everything off. And so that was very, very fast and impressive for me. And it was hard, not going to lie, it was hard because I had to deprive myself of a lot of things. I was just like doing the basics, paying my rent, eating, that was it. But I would say that journey was very, very good. Was it was not too bad, just because I was very vocal with my goals and everyone was supporting me. My parents were constantly checking, like, okay, how's your student loan going? So like, even if maybe today I'm like, I don't want to send this 3,000 to the student, but it's like, girl, there's a constant reminder to do that for me. And I'll say that leads me to the part of storytelling. So me being vocal about it, telling people about my journey, about what's happening, was also helpful to keep me accountable to that goal, and also build the confidence to keep doing it. It's like people constantly telling me about, okay, you need to pay this, you have how many more months, and also making that goal very visible. Like I'm very what's the word, visible person. So I had like a thermometer tracker where I was like marking it off, like, okay, you paid this amount today, this is how much that's left. And so that also helped me stay on the journey. And then just to speak more on that storytelling piece, I think also when you start to share about your journey, you find out that a lot of people are in similar situations. I think that when it comes to money, we're so used to keeping quiet and thinking, oh my God, I'm the only one in this case. But when you share, it's like there's so many people that are in this situation as me, and then that gives them the courage to like face challenges, like pay off that whatever loan that they have, or even like save that amount that they need to save. And I think sharing it is definitely helpful to build that confidence and just help people on their journey.
Mm-hmm. The sharing part is really true, like this power in community. And I know you mentioned that you came as an international student to Canada. I did as well. And out of curiosity, for those of us who are listening, how many of us are currently international students? How many of us came as international students? Or how many of us came to Canada as a newcomer? You can show it just by raising your hand or just by mentioning me, I in the chats. And I think just by the hands that are going up right now and some of the interactions in the chat, we can clearly see and confirm that you are not alone. You know, the only one who had to kind of figure out how to gather a lot of money together, the way how James shared his story. You're not the only one who had to take a loan to fund your education, the way how WomEconomics did. And my next question will be for you, Mary Heth. I do know that you as well, you were a newcomer to Canada. What were some of the challenges you faced kind of understanding and navigating the Canadian system? And now, with what you do at Woveo, how did that shape you to want to serve your community better?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so, well, we arrived in Canada around 7 years ago. And when I arrived in Canada, I had no credit history, no financial identity, and definitely no access to credit. So I found myself like starting again from zero. And no, like 2 months before I arrived, my husband had a trouble with a big bank. They basically closed all of his accounts, froze the money, and it was really hard for us, like trying to navigate a new country and getting these calls. It was so hard for us. So definitely I was disconnected, and that disconnection hit hard and made me realize how much our system assumed the privilege of being known, being trusted, being somebody. And when I started like to reach out the bank, I was nobody, and that was a hard through to understand. And definitely that experience that it's from like all of co-founders in Woveo, we struggle with similar things. That shapes Woveo mission. We don't ask what's your credit score in real life. We don't ask should I trust you? Let me know how much debt you have. No, we build different things, and we build community, different measures. So we understand like a credit score is usually something that gives a mark of a user in the bank system, how good user you can be to my product. But that don't defines our entire financial world, how we are. We at Woveo, we really work with around a lot of informal economies, how people are making things happening. And we know all these gender bias and all those barriers that we experience from culture to work or just having a money talk. Those things are sometimes put the financial world in a different place. Only available for people with suits that works really nice words and know how to name each of the numbers. But no, we all have that conversation. So that definitely shape what's Woveo right now. We want to break those barriers. We want to build with people like me in mind, with students, immigrants, newcomer. We want to navigate. We don't want to exclude. And there is something really, really powerful, and it's there is a misconception, and it's working with marginalized or with excluded people. We are challenging the system by showing that inclusivity isn't charity. It's not charity, it's fair for everybody. So it's a smart design to make sure everybody is included. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that last point you said. Thank you so much. Even Rashida says the same thing. I agree that setting rules and boundaries is key to growing one's financial wealth. And I wanted to also share something, when you talked about the credit score, and that was like a system we didn't necessarily have to deal with back home, but it is here in Canada. Likewise for me, I grew up in the Middle East, and the concept of credit is not the same way it is here. It's almost frowned upon over there. It's almost like a bad thing if you have a credit card. Like, why are you living off of debt? But the North American system, I guess it's unfortunate or fortunate, I don't know what it is, but it's based off of credit, right? You need to show how much you're able to obtain credit, but not use all of it to prove that you are someone that handles money well. So that's an interesting way to see and view money. And another thing that was kind of touched upon with you seeing a problem, you decided to solve that by starting your business. And I would love to now talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. Many of you would notice that almost all the speakers here actually are entrepreneurs, whether that is through your speaking business that you have, like for instance, Shay and Remy, or established organizations that are also growing. So that's on both of you, Sandy and Mary Heath. So Sandy, can you talk a little bit about how you support entrepreneurs from their startup to scale up? And what are some of the key financial pitfalls that you have seen a lot of early stage founders experience that you could give tips and advice for many of the future leaders of tomorrow on this call they can avoid?
Right. Thank you for that. Fascinating conversations, really, by all of the panelists. Lots of good tidbits for the audience to hear today. From an entrepreneurship standpoint, so I've been an entrepreneur and involved in supporting entrepreneurs for a number of years. And I would say a couple of things are really critical for an entrepreneur to do. And we earlier said that talking about things is a really good idea. And the one thing that an entrepreneur needs to do is to seek advice and help either from peers that are doing the same thing or in that same network that you see every day, or through mentors that have built businesses before them, and actually reach out and get their advice as you're building your business. The company that I'm involved in is called Intergen, and it's that for a reason. It's called intergenerational teams. So a lot of our entrepreneurs, we match them with senior business leaders that can help them navigate the minefield of growth in a company. And the key things I think that the key mistakes entrepreneurs can make is, one, not building that team around you. So trying to do it alone. You've got a small base of employees and they believe that you know everything. Well, you don't know everything. So make sure that you go find someone that can help you navigate that. Secondly is financial models. It's critical to put together a financial model that is realistic about how much it's going to cost you to build your product, bring it to market, and what it's going to cost you to market it after you bring it to market. So building a 5-year plan, we always say to an entrepreneur, have you built a 5-year pro forma? Just like you individually or tried to figure out how to pay off your loans and you built that plan and tracked how you were getting there. Maybe it didn't turn out exactly right, but at least you thought through how you're going to do that. So find a financial advisor that can help you do that in a business. And the last thing is to really ensure that you're in a business that you're excited about being in. When I listen to Mary Heth and what they're doing at Woveo, you love what you do, you're passionate about it, you'll have a natural conversation with everybody. Somebody will believe in you and help you either through financial resources or human resources to actually have you accomplish that goal. So it really is about community. It takes a community. Being an entrepreneur is extremely lonely. So be sure that you're not trying to do it on your own and you're reaching out to a peer group or individuals that have done it before. My last comment on that would be, people say, well, okay, that's great, but how do I meet those people? Well, volunteerism is a really good way to meet people. So volunteer, go out and raise the 50-50 at this soccer game. Get involved in volunteerism and you will be immensely blessed with people that want to help you in what you're doing. So volunteerism is a really good way to get involved into a great network of people that are like-minded.
Wow. Those were literally nuggets. I'm taking notes here. I even see Rashida and Dorcas mentioning that, yes, an excitement. Don't do it alone. These are very good points. And thank you for sharing that. And for everybody on the call, please make sure to check out Sandy's organization. She mentioned she's the managing partner at Intergen Capital. And you never know, she may be one of your next big mentor to support you in your financial story and also your startup as well. And still kind of talking on that note, the entrepreneurship journey and all of that for you, Mary Heth, fintech has been a buzzword for many years, and it's a big area as well. For those of us who may not know what fintech is, could you explain that? And can you talk a little bit about how fintech startup like yours is challenging the traditional financial systems, and how are fintechs making things more inclusive for people?
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So I just want to mention something before I answer the question. And it's at the very beginning of Woveo, I was volunteering with Woveo. We was MICC at that point. It was like, oh, hey guys, I'll do whatever. Like, do you want me to take photos? Do you want me to record the podcast? Whatever. And it's amazing how just putting people together in the same room that share the same passion makes everything wonderful. So, well, going to fintech, yeah, definitely. So we're basically a financial system that uses technology to enable something. In our case, we base our system in rotating savings, which is a practice that's been worldwide adopted. It's probably your country has its own name for that. But basically, fintechs are just here to question and reimagine financial system from the ground. And the good thing is that we are not tied to this legacy infrastructure or rigid risk models, but we can invent new things. Where I think it's really powerful in how we challenge those systems is we can ask better questions. We can ask, what does creditworthy means outside the bank? What if a community trust was valuable as a collateral? What if I don't have any of those things, but I have this community backing me up? So basically, what we are trying to rebuild is something that already exists, but it's not validated inside traditional system. So we use definitely tech, but we really want to empower people to see more than just not just extract information for them, but how can we build together? So we're really proving that the center can be the people, not just profit. We can build a sustainable model that embrace that mindset. I think I always ended up talking about this community, but we have an NMIO community on our system, Nigerians Mom of Ontario. And it's a community around 130 per year per cohort. They're using the rotational savings. It's basically everybody pitch a number every month, and they take turns to take the lump sum. And those mamas are putting $100, maybe $300 at most every month, and they have moved right now more than $2 million. No collateral, no need for credit score, but it's just the willingness to help. And more than that, they have a repayment rate that it's amazing, like 90%. Like our partners, they don't believe us. It's like, oh, we have this client, and they're like, oh, I don't trust that number. But yes, I've been with them. I had a Christmas party with them last year, and they're just moms sitting together and supporting each other. And that's really powerful. And you cannot put that on a traditional model because they don't fit, but they exist. So as fintechs, we can make sure those are visible and like let them decide to continue this traditional financial model or going to what they have practiced around the world. Yeah.
I would have never believed that as well. It's really inspiring to see the work and the impact you're having in communities. And I'm pretty sure you sharing that story was very timely, given that we just celebrated Mother's Day this past weekend. So thank you so much, Mary Heth, and thank you to the Woveo community for all that you're doing for entrepreneurs globally as well, especially in underrepresented parts of the world. Before we wrap up the panel and open the floor for questions from the audience, I would love to ask a few questions to Shay and Adirumike, specifically on what it's like interacting and educating Gen Zs. You know, many times certain of these topics can feel intimidating for people, especially topics like insurance. What else? Yeah, like not just like life insurance, but different types of insurance as well. And there's so many people who are out here to take your money. They're not actually giving you insurance. Like they're using all these big terminologies, and you know they're telling you that, oh, you get this money once you have retired, once you're aging, this and that, and it sounds enticing. So how exactly do you approach simplifying these complex discussions with someone who has little or no financial background?
Yes, so a big part of what I do is foundational, right? We need to walk before we can run, right? I'm very big on the building relationship part, and a part of that is relatability. So I truly believe that people can consume and retain information when they're comfortable. So that's a huge part of it as well. But I also use a lot of analogies. Like I'm very big on having a conversation. Like we're all talking about money. We're talking about very important points, but it's enjoyable because it's a conversation and not a lecture. And I think that across all ages, that is something that people enjoy, having an actual discussion and conversation about something. And through the work that I do one-on-one with clients, but also through the workshops that I do, it's a conversation. It's an enjoyable conversation. And you won't even realize that you've learned something. And I think that's really, really important. And I always think about how I would want to learn something and how I would want someone to speak to me. And we don't need to use these big words to explain things. I've always said that financial concepts and learning about money is actually quite simple. It's if the person that's teaching it is making it complicated, then of course it's going to be complicated. So just to recap, I definitely like to keep things foundational. So for example, if we're talking about investing, I'm not going to jump right in and talk about investing. I'm actually going to talk about interest rates, because understanding interest rates is going to help somebody grasp the importance of investing, how their money multiplies, and that kind of thing. And so I do like to keep it foundational. And then I like to add fun into it. I like to add humor. I like to tell jokes. I like to use analogies. I like to use comparisons. And I find that people understand information really well that way.
Yes. So just to add to that, like you taught us the big thing, relatability. So being relatable to Gen Z specifically, or even just any but like person, is very, very important. And also storytelling. So showing like what you are doing, like how are you building wealth, like how are you saving. So if I say, okay, I do payday routines now, and that's like a routine thing that now my audience is looking forward to. So if I miss it, someone will be like, where's your payday routine? Or, oh my God, I missed last week's one. So things like that, like showing them what I'm doing with my money, or, oh, this month I didn't do well with my money. Maybe I didn't hit my savings goals. Being transparent also is also very important, because yes, I'm talking about money. Does not mean I'm perfect in it. Like, I'm not always going to hit all my saving goals like every single month. I also do not hit that because maybe I want to spend money on something. So just being able to storytell, be relatable, show your journey. I think that's also very big. Like, showing your journey, you pay your student, you pay off your loans, you hit certain milestones, showing that journey is important. But I also want to touch on the fact that there's so much content out there also, so you have to also be very careful of what you're taking in. And even sometimes I'm even like, oh, wow, I hope someone like believes all things I'm saying. But then the reason why people believe it is because I'm showing the talk. Like, I'm not just like saying these things without you guys seeing the proof. Like, I'm showing you guys real numbers, how I did this. This is how much I spent in the month. This is my credit card bill. I'm showing the real things so you can see that this is what I'm doing with my money. I'll say that's the biggest thing with storytelling or talking to finances with Gen Z. And as with what Shay said, also like building that foundational knowledge. So teaching them the things that people would normally not teach. So a lot of times they were hearing the big things. Oh, invest this, buy this ETF, buy this stock. It's like, I don't even know what the stock is. Like, what is it? Like, how am I earning money from that? So teaching that beginner stage is so important to even get to that journey of like, okay, now you can buy this, or this is why you should invest in this. So that's how to do it, really.
Mm-hmm. Aderamike, Shay, Sandy, and Mary Heck, thank you so much. It's been an amazing conversation so far. Before we do open it up for questions from the audience, so please, our listeners, if you have questions, now is the time to put it in the chat. Or you can also raise up your hand and you can ask your question live as well. But I'll ask one final question to everyone, and if you can answer it within 30 seconds to like 50 seconds. What is one piece of advice you would give one of our listeners here today? And for those who would listen to this recording in the future, when it comes to being financially savvy, starting early, and those who have interest in starting a business, if that's around finance or just entrepreneurship in general. So I'll start it off with Shay, and then each one of you can follow ahead.
Okay, I would say a piece of advice would be to, the sooner that you ask for help, the sooner that you can start the journey. You know, there could be a lot of shame when it comes to the topic of money. If you remember anything about what I've said, it's no one is coming to save you. You actually have to go out and ask for the help, for someone to help save yourself. And so the time is going to come, the time is going to pass. You know, in 6 months, you could be in a way better position. But regardless, the 6 months are going to pass. Like, we're already in May. I think that's insane that we're already halfway through the year almost. And so if you are noticing that you need to change, ask for help. And also on the entrepreneur side, because I am an entrepreneur, do it messy. I've been saying this often. Sometimes we wait for things to be perfect and we can miss out on opportunities. The way I run my business now is nowhere near how I ran it 4 years ago. And so if you have an idea, just do it, just start. You will learn all the lessons along the way.
Shay, that's great advice. It's Sandy here. I agree. Speak up, get advice, and move, because time goes by, right? So all of a sudden you'll say, well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to think about how I could do that. And then now it's a year later. And if you could have started a year earlier, what might have happened if you would have done that? Whether it's trying to figure out how to save money or start a business or whatever you're trying to do. Procrastination, Sandy Gilbert, procrastinator extraordinaire, not always a good thing. So I would say move. And also a quick story. You know, I went to the Silicon Valley and heard DoorDash talk about their platform, and this is about not getting it perfect right. For the first 4 months that DoorDash was around, their system crashed every Friday at 6 o'clock, because that's when everybody started to put the orders in. But it didn't stop them from coming to market. They didn't wait until they knew it was going to be perfect. So it'll never be perfect. Make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and move forward. And always take everything as a learning.
Yes. So I can just follow up with that. I'll say the financial advice I'll say is like financial literacy is not hard. Like as she said, it is really not hard. And I think we need to get comfortable with the fact that these are all simple terms that you can literally learn. Like you don't need it's nice to have a financial advisor, but like you also need to know about what even your financial advisor is telling you about. So you need to have that fundamental knowledge. So it's not a hard thing to see. And then, as everyone has said, move. If you learn something, start to think about how you want to practice it. The difference between people that start things and people that don't is audacity. So we need to get comfortable with having audacity to just start things and move. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, definitely. You're like we're really on the same track. I would like to add that it's never too early or too late to talk about money. Our first money lesson was probably questioning the tooth fairy rates, was fair or not. So keep asking questions. Even as a child, we say like, no, my tooth was worth more than $2. So keep that conversation alive. Keep that spirit in. Break the taboo. Start where the numbers feel human. And and I echo what was said before, better done than perfect. And finally, our rebel phrase from Woveo, and it's why saving with a bank you can't borrow from. So question them as well. Yeah.
Why save from a bank? They won't even allow you. You're not eligible to borrow from. That's deep. Something to definitely reflect upon. Thank you once again. This is amazing. Can we please give a big round of applause to all of our speakers so far? And I am loving the chat. We're having good questions. Awesome. I don't have to ask any more questions. So let's start off with the first question by James. He says, I would love to know for the panelists, where or from whom are you inspired by? And what about this person or experience stands out to you? So who would like to answer that?
James, I'll start. It's Sandy. It may not answer your question perfectly, but I had a really wise mentor of mine tell me a long time ago that you need to build your own boardroom table. So when you are building a network around you to support what you want to do, make sure that you're thinking who's at the table and who you're spending time with, and ensure you're cultivating a great group that can support you there. I started with I had 3 women in my life, my music teacher, my aunt, and my mother that were all really good inspirations to me for what I'm doing. But you need to bring in other people that can support you along the way. So who's at your boardroom table, and make sure they're the right people.
I love that. I remember I've also heard the saying, like if you don't get a seat at the table, create your own table.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyone else wants to share their own?
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you. I would say my brother, and I'll share why. He got into real estate, flipping homes, so buying the rundown homes, renovating, flipping them. And the reason how he even got into that was he was working as a bartender, and he overheard a conversation. It was a bunch of investors having a conversation, and he just plopped himself near, was eavesdropping, and ended up introducing himself, getting some contacts. And years later, this is, a huge part of what he does business-wise, and so that's inspiring for me, because sometimes we feel like we don't deserve to be a part of certain conversations, but the curiosity, I think curiosity will make you a lot of money. And oftentimes, especially when we talk about money, sometimes our parents will say, we don't need to talk about that, or kids don't need to have those conversations. But when you're curious about things, that's how you learn. And when you learn, you can actually apply. So I would say having a curious trait and never losing your childlike curiosity is going to help you in all walks of life, whether it's 9 to 5, entrepreneurship, etc. So stay curious.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the next question. It says, how do we go about our entrepreneurship journey when we are not sure about our idea just yet?
I would love to add something to that question. It's a good question, and we've been more than 3 years into this Woveo journey, and well, we are not sure yet. We don't know. Maybe you never know, but you need to trust. Things change, so don't marry your ideas. Don't think like, I think it's even more harmful to have this idea that you believe it's perfect, because you will be sticking to that and be willing to change. So if you're not sure, like, let's talk with people, like reach out to LinkedIn, and it's like, oh, I want to show you something, show it to your friends, show it to your peers. So I think it's not about a formula. You won't have this aha moment. You'll have multiple, but again, you'll have other voices that are saying like, it's not right. It's not. You need to follow your passion at the end of the day. So if you feel that it's right, put it out. Don't wait until it's perfect. That's key on every level. And I really work close to product, and I was waiting for this perfect layout, perfect to the pixel. That doesn't matter. Put it out. Put it out. That's what it needs, like, to be seen. Mhm.
Any other advice from anyone before we move on to the next question? Okay, the next question says, by Manette. Thank you all for your insights. I was just wondering, what are some resources you would recommend to someone completely new to financial literacy and would like to learn? So I'm gonna just shout out to the people here. Both Shay and Adarimike, they speak about this a lot. So I think the first thing you should do is just follow them on Instagram. So please, Adarimike and Shay, if you don't mind, if you can put your like Instagram or LinkedIn or however they can reach out to you. If you have any materials that people can get like access to, if they can book a call with you, I'm gonna say these will be the first two people you want to talk to. And then does anybody else have other recommendations, maybe books or podcasts to listen to? I'm a big fan of podcasts as well. There's one that I listen to. It's by Mel Robinson. She kind of speaks about different topics, but she's incredible. So that'll be one I would recommend.
Yeah, I can add for books. So I think a good book is The Psychology of Money. So I like that book because I don't think it's too technical. It's a very easy read, but it helps you to really think about a lot of things that you originally thought about money. Like, it helps you rethink what you think about money, and it's definitely a good book to start with. Who wrote it? I forget. But The Psychology of Money is a good book to start with. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Our next question. This question is for any of the panelists. If you were to restart your financial journey, what would you do differently?
I would say I might have bought some real estate. You know, I heard Shay say about her brother, you know, flipping some homes. I think, you know, not buying real estate, reasonably priced real estate in a good location is something that I thought about doing. One of those things I thought about doing about 20 years ago. And I think real estate would have been good in my portfolio. And I don't have any real estate in my portfolio.
Thanks for sharing, Sandy.
Would have started earlier,
Yeah, for sure.
like when I was 2 years old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have started earlier, you know. But I also believe in that everything happens at the right time. And, you know, when I started my financial journey and when I got things underway and improved my financial literacy, I really felt like my life had just begun. And so I still feel very young. And I still feel like there's a lot of life to live. But let this be inspiration that it's never too early. I just learned recently that you start to form thoughts about money at age 6, even though I feel like it's way younger than that. And so if anyone here is a parent or is an auntie or uncle or, you know, has children in their lives, don't underestimate those kids' ability to understand what's happening in the world. And you can start having those small conversations about money, even going to the grocery store, or if you have a savings goal, you can share that with them. Kids are so smart. And the more that they hear these things, the less avoidance will happen in the future. I truly believe that.
Yeah, that is 100% accurate. Kids, I think many times we underestimate kids. They know a lot for their age. They're influenced by a lot of things easily and quickly. So definitely, it's never too early to start. Thanks for sharing that. And an advice I would actually say that I wish I had taken more seriously earlier. I think many times we may try to save so much money that we may opt for like the cheapest thing, or we make that type of mindsets. Or maybe sometimes, let's say you grew up in a home where there was a season where things were tight, things were difficult, and that's your mindset of money, like that scarcity mindset. So then what does that translate to? That means that you end up buying maybe lesser quality clothes, but then it ends up tearing every summer. Then you have to keep on buying it again. But if you just invested in a higher quality item, it will last you 3-4 years, and it actually is sustainable, it supports the environment, and so on. And this also goes down to like who you're paying to get information from. Sometimes we may want to get information fast, quick, cheap, but they can be the worst advisors, that they can derail you by 10 years. They can just change your financial story. So invest in quality things in every aspect of your life, as much as you can afford. And it really goes a long way to get recommendations and referrals from somebody that you trust, somebody that you look up to, because they have done it. They can tell you whether or not that was the right thing to do or not. So that's what I'll add on to that.
Yeah. I think mine will be to, thankfully, I was privileged enough to have parents that were really, they taught us about money really young. But I feel like the mistake I made was to not start talking about money early enough. And I think for mostly like my peers and my friends, and like just because like I feel like I knew a lot about it, and I should have been having more conversations that would have helped them earlier than like when I started to help. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's probably the mistake that I'll see.
Yeah, I would love to say that, yes, treat your money like it's already funding your future self. If it's not helping you grow, rethink what's going on. So, and also going away of that mindset of financial like planning, it's just saving. It's not. It's more than just saving money. And I think that was again what you mentioned about the mindset. My home, we never had a credit card, so we just spent what we had. But there are good chances that alone it's not a bad decision. You cannot be scared of going on different paths of different ways. So be willing to explore, and also sometimes we're not conscious about how much are we carrying for past generations. That times change so fast. We'll need to adapt and be willing to relearn what we have even experienced since our childhood. Yeah.
Mm. I love that. And I remember I recently heard this where someone said, your 9 to 5 is meant to fund your business idea. Almost like there's nothing wrong to have a 9 to 5 and some sort of business, and that your 9 to 5 can be like the startup money for that, right? So kind of just thinking entrepreneurial as well. And this will now lead us to our last question before we officially wrap up. Snavia says, amazing panel, loved hearing all you inspiring stories. I had a question for the panel. What is one financial habit you think everyone should start practicing as soon as possible? I believe we kind of already answered this, but if anybody has any other specific financial habits, please feel free to share.
I have one. So not everything is about money. Sometimes it's about other habits that will impact how you manage your money. And so for me, what I found is a solid morning routine impacts my entire day. And if I can commit to this morning routine every single day, that improves my ability to be consistent and disciplined in other areas, including money. So as much as it's not directly related to a money habit, mindset, consistency, discipline, keeping promises to yourself, having a healthy routine in general will impact your ability to manage money. So that's what I would say.
Nice. That's really, I like that, because I also see that happening to me. But then An additional one I would say is to definitely know about your money. So I feel like a lot of times people do not even know anything about their money. They don't know how much they're spending. They don't know their income. So that's like the first thing that you need to do. Know how much you're spending every single month. Know how much your income is. And then from there, keep that a practice. Like always be, even when you have millions, like have an idea of what's happening in your account at the least. So that's important. Yeah.
I love that. I would agree with that. And there's really no excuse today because there's lots of apps out there that can help you manage that for sure. But back to Shay's comment, it doesn't matter, the size of your savings account if you or your investment portfolio, if you don't lead a healthy life and you don't get to enjoy it, past the age of 50. So, I would say look after yourself. It's really important that your health is really first and foremost in your life, mental and physical health. But it's pretty easy to get really in the weeds and forget about looking after yourself. So that morning routine, Shay, really good idea. There's a book out there that's called Die with Zero, which is an interesting read. And it really is about living your life with your wealth and getting to appreciate it while you're here and not after you're gone.
Yeah. That's I will love it was before you, Sandy, because that's so well explained. And definitely, we sometimes really put our lives aside for work or for money, and that's not the goal. So I'll just add one last thing, and it's understanding our emotional patterns around money. I think that can shift our behaviors even faster than budget. So it's the habit behind the habits. So we really need to understand what's my relationship. It's guilt, social pressure, it's fear, being honest, and putting us first, paying us first, not paying anybody, paying us. And that means our time, our health, everything that you guys mentioned.
Yeah. Wow, this was amazing. Thank you once again, Remy, Shay, Mary, Sandy. The one that just I feel was indirectly said by everybody was the importance of being consistent. Consistency in every aspect of your life. If you think that you just need to be consistent with your money, no, it also means your health, your wealth, your relationships, and your work, the way how you show up, your business. I also have a business that I'm trying to grow and everything, and consistency is very, very hard. But that brings us to our conclusion of the event. Thank you. Can we please give all of our speakers a big round of applause? So thank you, everybody, for joining and for listening. Before we do drop off, just a few announcements. Firstly is that we do have a short survey. We would love to get your feedback. How did you enjoy today's session? How were the questions? Were they insightful? Were they helpful? That is currently pinned in the chat. So please take a minute to fill out the survey. It will be tremendously helpful for us. Secondly is stay tuned. You will get a recording of this session and also how you can connect and reach out to all the speakers today. So please, let's keep connected. And also one thing that we love about our organization, WomEconomics, is that we believe in the power of community. So if you want to be connected with other people who attended today's session, please feel free to put your LinkedIn in the chat. I'm going to put my personal LinkedIn and also WomEconomics page as well. And you also see that Shay and Remy already included their own social media platforms and their websites. So let's be connected. Let's be in touch. Let's encourage one another. Let's see how we can support one another as we continue to believe that it's never too early. I'm just going to see if Emmanuel or James from the Woveo team has any last things to say before we take a quick group photo.
Thank you all for this great panel and being here. Sorry, my camera's off. But yeah, thank you all for being here. It was a great session. We will be the resources in the recording, hopefully within the next 24 hours. Be on the lookout for that, and feel free to reach out to WomEconomics or Woveo on any of our social media. We're here to support you guys in your financial journeys and your lives, as well as even offering business loans through our Woveo platform. Thank you all.
Thank you. if you can have your camera on for like 30 seconds, I'm gonna take a few pictures. So on a count of 3, let's all just give our biggest smile for the way how we found today's session. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, awesome. Thanks everybody. Have a lovely evening. And on behalf of WomEconomics and Woveo, have a great start of the end of the spring. Actually, the sun is amazing. Summer is already here. I'm loving it. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.